William Adams, born in 1564 in the city of Limehouse, London, was an English sailor who became one of the most notable figures in the history of feudal Japan. His life took an extraordinary turn in 1600, when after a long and dangerous voyage through the seas, he arrived on the Japanese coast aboard the ship De Liefde, belonging to a Dutch expedition. When the ship De Liefde reached the Japanese coast, the crew was initially imprisoned, and Adams was treated as a prisoner by the samurai. However, his luck was about to change. He was not just a sailor. He possessed skills valuable to feudal Japan, especially in the field of navigation and shipbuilding, something that the shogunate Tokugawa Ieyasu, the leader of Japan at that time, was interested in learning. That was the turning point that transformed Adams' life. In a short time, he gained the trust of Ieyasu, who brought him to the center of his court. It was not long before Adams began to integrate into feudal Japan, learning the language, customs, and even the philosophy of samurai. He began to be respected not only as a foreigner, but as someone essential to the success of the shogunate. Ieyasu not only made Adams his advisor, but also did what no one could have predicted, was that Adams, a European, would become a samurai, one of the greatest privileges a foreigner could achieve in Japan at the time. This was partly because Japan was approaching the West, and Adams represented a valuable link between the two worlds. He became a unique figure, being a samurai of European origin, with a mission to unite two distinct cultures. Although he was part of the inner circle of the shogunate, he still faced personal difficulties, such as the longing for his native land, the complexity of living in such a different culture, and the dilemma of being a Christian living in an increasingly hostile Japan to the Western religion. During this period, Christianity was being banned by the Japanese government, and many Christian missionaries were being persecuted. Although Christian, he embraced the traditions and rules of the country, becoming a true samurai but never forgetting his roots. While living in Japan, William Adams was not only a political figure, but also a symbol of adaptation and coexistence between cultures. His contribution was significant to the strengthening of trade relations between Japan and European countries, especially the Dutch, who were beginning to establish a stronger trade route with Japan. In addition, its presence in Japan was also a reflection of the very period of Sakoku, the policy of isolation of Japan, which paradoxically counted on the contribution of a European to its development and military strategies. Adams helped to establish a bridge between these two worlds, which otherwise could have remained separate for much longer. Adams also had an impact on personal and family life within Japan. He married a Japanese woman, with whom he had children, becoming part of a new generation that symbolized the fusion of cultures. His adaptation was not only political, but also social, as he lived a full life in Japan, learning to integrate the values of samurai culture. Over the years, Adams helped improve the Japanese Navy by designing and supervising the construction of more modern and efficient ships. His contribution was instrumental in strengthening the naval forces of Japan, a crucial element for the power of the shogunate. His relationship with the shogunate allowed him to open up trade with the Dutch, especially in Nagasaki, the only port where trade with foreigners was permitted. This exchange, although limited, was fundamental for the development of new technologies and practices in Japan. During this period, Adams not only contributed to the military and commercial area, but also to Japanese culture. He helped introduce new Western construction techniques and navigation strategies, which were adapted and improved by the Japanese. While adapting to the new culture, Adams had to deal with being a foreigner in a country that was gradually closing itself off from the rest of the world. His Christian faith, which in England represented an important part of his identity, became increasingly difficult to maintain as Japan became more and more hostile to foreign missionaries. William Adams' life was marked by moments of reflection and solitude, but also by great achievements. Despite the difficulties, he managed to fully integrate into Japan, deeply rooted in the local culture and becoming a true samurai. Throughout his life, Adams acquired a great reputation, not only as a military advisor, but as a man of character, one who had known to respect and learn from a culture completely different from his own. His story is one of adaptation, respect, and above all, dedication to the country that welcomed him. After years of loyalty and service to the shogunate, Adams went on to live his last years in peace in Japan. He retired from active political life and devoted himself to his family and business. His death in 1620 was a great loss for Japan, which had lost one of its most respected advisors. Adams was buried in a small town in Japan, where to this day there are monuments in his honor. His story is a reminder of how one single person, even a foreigner, can leave an indelible mark on the history of a nation. The importance of William Adams for Japan cannot be underestimated. He was not only a counselor, but someone who helped build bridges between two completely different worlds. His life in Japan was a reflection of how knowledge and cultural exchange can be transformative. Although a foreigner, he became part of Japanese history, remembered not only as a samurai but as a pioneer who played a crucial role in opening up and modernizing Japan.